Well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cutting Room Floor. Taylor here along with Wes. Wes, how are you today?
I'm good, but what happened to you, man? Why are you wearing a cast?
I have told this story probably 100 times already.
Okay.
And I'll have to tell it 100 more by the time Sunday hits.
Oh yeah, because you're up this Sunday.
I'm up this Sunday.
Everybody wants to know.
Yes.
Go ahead. And
so
tell us.
this is like exclusive content for those that tune in.
So this is only for our
Yeah.
podcast watchers and listeners. So
You'll
here
know
we
early.
go.
You'll be able to tell the story along with me on Sunday.
Breaking news. Dun, dun, dun,
So
dun.
Monday morning, we have two dogs, Carl and Chip.
You have 2 kids, 2 dogs,
Two
One
kids,
wife.
2 dogs, 1 wife, and
a big long to-do list.
and a very long to-do list with many things.
On Monday mornings.
And I joke, for real, in my house, something's either always barking or beeping.
Yeah, or
It's just-
broken.
Or broken, always. Always. And so I let my dogs in from going outside, and Chip, who's just turned 1, he is running circles. He's a madman.
Okay.
He's not the best trained dog yet. So he's running circles around the house. Tatum is freaked out, my
This is your
3-year-old son.
yeah.
So he's freaked out. He's screaming. So I go to grab Chip just to help him stop running.
Yeah.
And just I so happen to grab down, and my pinky got caught in Chip's collar.
Yeah.
And Chip kept running, and my pinky
Kept on moving.
Stayed there too. My
Oh,
pinky
okay.
stayed in one place, but the tip of the pinky went the other way.
Yeah.
And so I broke the tip of my pinky,
Okay.
which sounds not a lot.
In the light
It
of
sounds like
eternity.
it's very. just the tip of the pinky. You're fine.
Yeah,
You're
it's a flesh
good.
wound.
Just is a flesh wound.
Yeah.
But can I tell you the pain that happened, especially the first day after that? Oh my goodness. But yeah, it is broken. I'm waiting to call from orthopedic. This might be in a cast by Sunday.
Ooh,
Who
maybe.
knows?
Can
Who
I
knows?
sign it?
You can. I should do it like in middle school,
Yeah.
right? And like get a
It'll make
Sharpie
you
and
feel
everyone sign
better.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we could do that as like a thing on Sunday.
There we go.
Meet you in the lobby. Everybody sign your cast.
Yeah, it's a Connect event.
Yeah.
Side Taylor's cast.
Well, we'll be praying for your wife the next few weeks because I
Yeah.
know what it's like when I get the
Yeah.
sniffles. It's murder. So if I broke a bone, it will be bad.
Oh, and I've been let's just say that me not being able to do everything that I want to do and not being able to use this hand,
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not made for that.
Yeah.
I as you know me, I'm like
Oh,
go.
No,
And so I've had to slow down, which means that I've also been grumpy. So not only has Elisa had to deal with like she's had to pick up a little more, but then also like she's dealt with me just being grumpy about this. So pray for her most of all.
Yeah, for real.
She's been a trooper though, and she's been very supportive. Her coworker, shout out to Jamie, informed her that this is not a this is a hurtful thing. Like breaking the
okay.
tip of a pinky. It seems little, but it's actually a lot of pain in it.
So even though you're a guy, this is legit pain.
A legit pain.
Yeah,
Legit
okay,
pain.
okay.
I've had that confirmed, and Jamie used to work in orthopedic. So
All right.
Elisa told me, she goes, Jamie has your back. She confirmed that this is a painful injury.
Man, that was grace.
I said,
right there
thank
for
you, Jamie, so much.
God just bailed you out. 'Cause,
Oh.
Yeah, you need a doctor's note just to operate in your house.
I was about to be like, doctor, thank you for writing the note for the office of why I missed.
yeah,
But you
but
write
that's
it for
not
my
what I
wife.
needed. Yeah,
of why-
yeah, that's right. Well, we hope that you'll get better soon.
Well, thank you.
And
Thank
you don't
you.
need surgery. We'll get the update on Sunday.
We'll get the update. Yeah.
would've
Surgery doesn't. As of now, it looks like no surgery.
Okay,
Where the doctor was optimistic. I missed the tendon, the joint. He named like it could have
Okay,
gotten the
good.
tendon,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
joint,
yeah.
all these things.
Yeah.
You didn't get that. You look okay. Just going to be a few weeks for it to heal.
Okay.
So we'll see though.
We'll carry you up to the platform on Sunday, man.
Wheelchair me out.
That's right. That's right.
I do find it ironic though.
Yeah.
So to tie this to the sermon, I do find it ironic because you preached on this idea. Little is much if God is in it.
That's right.
And so here's what I've been laughing at. I've been laughing at breaking the tip of a pinky seems so little.
Yep.
But yet the amount, the magnitude and amount of pain that's in there
Yeah.
is unreal compared to what you look and think it is.
Right.
And I can't help but laugh to think like that's such a beautiful illustration
Right.
of what we
is
talked
much.
about.
That's right. You don't even think about your pinky.
No,
That-
not at all.
your pinky,
Until you can't
so
use it, until it's
and
hurting.
it hurts.
Yeah.
Then all the attention goes there.
Yes.
Kind of like a tooth or something. That,
Yes.
I had that last year, a broken tooth. That was the most annoying thing of all.
Oh, that's a different kind of pain too.
Yeah,
You don't even
yeah.
expect it.
Nope.
And so we talked about this idea, little as much if God is in it, and we talked about 2 parables.
Yep.
I heard you. I was out of town at a wedding this weekend, but I heard you had some fun with my. You didn't bring a
that's
CD.
right.
You
No, I
brought something.
I should have brought one of those 45s, those records, and showed them to you. Maybe you've never
No.
held one or seen one
Never,
before.
never.
But the relics from my childhood were, those 45s. And you got a bonus song on the back of them. So it came with
Ooh.
side A, and then side B was a lesser-known song. But most of the big bands, if they put a hit on side A that everybody knew, soon side B would
Become a hit,
popular.
too.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
So in
okay.
the parable we looked at, this back-to-back set of parables that are very brief, but they reveal more about the kingdom of God. It's in Matthew 13, I think verse 31 is where Jesus starts, and he uses an illustration about the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
And the kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, he uses that interchangeably. And he says the kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who went out and planted a mustard seed. Even though it's the smallest of seeds, when you plant these little seeds, and I've still got 3 billion of them after I dumped out all of these. So these little things are just tiny. And yet
look how
inside this
small.
seed, Jesus continues his illustration. Once it's planted, he says it sprouts up into a giant bush, the largest of garden trees, and birds come and make their nests there. And then he follows it up and he says, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God is like a woman who puts a little measure of leaven or yeast in 3 measures of bread. And the commentator said that would feed about 150 people. So this little dash of yeast, leaven, has that same power to, it's something minuscule, and yet this will grow, this little seed will grow into a giant bush.
Wow.
My men's Bible study this morning, we were Googling pictures of mustard bushes and trees. And so this little bitty seed grows up into something powerful, little as much if God is in it, but there's some actions that we need to take to cooperate with that grace.
Yeah.
Because the small things actually do matter.
Yeah.
And you don't think of it. It's unseen until it's not, like your finger.
Yes, and I love that Jesus puts both these parables side by side, and they're very similar in the format, very similar in the length. They kind of tell the same point. But I love that he does this because, as we've talked about a little bit, but we haven't dove deep into it, but this is a good chance to for a few minutes. The purpose of a parable is to put two things side by side.
Yeah.
And you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah,
'Cause
the Greek
we talked a
word,
little bit about that.
Parable actually means to throw down alongside.
Yeah.
So it's putting down something alongside of something else. In this case, Jesus has given us 2 simple illustrations that explain the extraordinary kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And so he's like, it's like a guy that goes out and he plants a little mustard seed, and it grows up to a bush. It's like a woman working in the kitchen, and she's baking for her family and making bread. It's that simple, but yet it's not. It's that amazing because something small, just a small amount of faith, or if we wanted to grow in gratitude, let's say, I want to become a grateful person.
Yeah.
That can be a proactive faith step.
Yeah.
And so how does that start? Well, it starts very small, but then it continues to grow to the point that the birds coming is not just a great lesson on birds flying in the air. That's beautiful. But Jesus has more in mind on that because that was a prophecy that Jesus' kingdom would be a place for every bird from every feather can come from all over the world and find shelter and shade in that bush. And so there's a lot going on in just a few short words.
That's good. Before we jump to you had said kind of this process of 3 things, and we're going to talk about each of those in a second for a little bit. I want to focus on the idea of small things can have a big impact.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but for me, especially as someone who's as an inner critic and perfectionist and trying to achieve and do and cross off a to-do list, we're wired the same way.
We are,
kind of
yeah.
there. I often strive to try to make the things I have or even myself seem bigger to accomplish more.
Yeah.
Of in my mind, I have this false equation like, well, if I can just get better at this thing, or if I can just have a bigger amount of gratitude or faith or whatever, or if I can just be more proficient in this thing, then I'll reach this place where I'll see growth.
Right.
And what I love about this parable is the size of the seed doesn't change.
No.
And the amount of leaven doesn't alter. It's a little, but what happens through that is expansive.
Yeah.
And I know you had a great riff about too often I've got too little faith or not enough of this.
Yeah.
And so if I know, and not just I, but others resonate with that of there's this beauty in the fact that the thing that God uses is small and it stays small. It doesn't say that the mustard seed has to become a big enough mustard seed to then be used.
Right, no.
I love that. You speak a little more into that. I think it's encouraging for all of us.
I think it is because of, we are in love with bigger and better in our world. what do you need? Well, just a little bit more, whatever it is, time, patience, money. We can go on and on. And the truth is we have enough.
Yeah.
Because Jesus says the smallest of seeds, it yields this giant return if it's handled in the way that God designed it to be handled. Yeah. And the nutrients and stuff packed in these little seeds, I didn't pay attention in biology and stuff like that when I was in 8th grade. So I'm still finding all this fascinating. I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, the germination process of a seed. And it's packed, and then the shell gets softer when it's planted in the ground.
Huh.
And then a little shoot comes out, and it begins to get extra nutrients from the fertilized dirt and the water and the sunlight. And then that little shoot is called a radicle. And that's what happens in the stage where nothing seems like it's going on.
Yeah.
And then finally, it starts to emerge, and this tree starts to come out of this tiny little bitty seed. And this helps me remember that it's not about the amount of faith that I've got. It's about the amount of God's power and love and grace that he's hardwired into this life of faith, just like he has a seed. If he can do that with a mustard seed, then maybe there's a chance for me too.
Yeah.
Because I always think, well, I don't have enough. And when something doesn't happen the way I think it should happen, and I don't get the outcome that I like, then sometimes I'm like, well, I guess I didn't have enough faith, or I didn't have enough prayer, or I didn't pray right, or that, that kind of a thing. And that's what Jesus is pushing against.
Yeah.
He says, in the kingdom, a little is much when it
good.
comes to God.
I think this also is true for like when I use a sports term called when we move the end zone.
Yeah.
So often in my life, I'll have this idea like, man, if only I could get to this point, if only I could achieve this thing, if only I could master this thing, and I've made progress toward that. Like maybe let's use solitude as an example. So 2 years ago, I was doing 0 minutes of solitude a day, and now I'm up to 10 minutes a day. And what I can do is instead of celebrating, going, wow, God, look what you're doing with those 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I have this tendency to go, once I hit 30 minutes a day, then I'll really be whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, when I think about this, it's like I often try to grow the seed to a certain point.
Right.
And then we'll go, okay, now God can use that. Now God's really doing his thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, what if I celebrated and understood that the progress I made from 0 to 10 minutes is God doing some incredible things through something small?
Little as much, if God is in it. Little as much, if God is in it. That's what we're trying to learn from Jesus in these back-to-back stories.
Yeah.
Because it isn't, contrary to the way you and I are wired in our brokenness, our sinful nature, we have that tendency to overexert and overstrive and think that that's and it really doesn't come down to us. It comes down to who God is and what we do with that gift. And so this seed, there is a responsibility on our end because a farmer would have to let go of the seed at some point, and you bury it, and then you trust that something's going to happen. And for a while, you don't know. And that's hard in our society where we like everything now. I mean, we were talking about how frustrating it is you're waiting for a doctor to call. Yeah. And it's been 3 days,
Feels like a lifetime.
I know, it feels like a lifetime. You used to have to travel 3 days just to find a doctor,
Yeah.
Other times in our history. And so, now we have telehealth. We have all these things, and we have it instantly. Yep. And so I think this is hard for me because Jesus has a different measurement style than I do.
He does, yeah.
I like, big corporations and big ambitions and big, all those kind of things. Yeah. And we who worship big should take a lesson and learn from the mustard seed. Yeah. Because little is much if God is in it. So that 10 minutes a day might shape your whole life more than any other thing. And it goes back to these simple things. And I for a long time, I thought it was some kind of blaze of glory won, like it was all about that. And really, it's not about that one victorious moment when we had to stand before Goliath. I mean, that moment might come in our faith.
Right.
But most of the moments are pretty mundane.
They are.
They're about as exciting as a mustard seed.
They are, yeah.
But there's that much potential packed into our life and into God's power.
Yeah, and the potential for him to do incredible things with our really small efforts.
Yes.
And so you talked about these 3 sequences.
Yeah.
Of let go, let grow, and let God.
Yeah.
Now, I want to spend just a few minutes on each of these to kind of dive a little deeper. So let go.
Okay.
To channel our inner Elsa.
Yeah.
Let it go, let it go.
There you
Can't hold it back anymore.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What does that look like? We see it in the parable of.
So Jesus, simply states it. man went out and had a mustard seed that he planted.
Yep.
So there's a letting go. It's a trusting what God has already.
It went from his
designed.
hands to the ground.
It went from his hands
Yeah.
to the ground. Which there's some autobiographical pieces in this that I discovered as Jesus is wherever Jesus is, his kingdom is present.
Yeah.
And so some of this is about Jesus because he and his kingdom are inseparable.
Yep.
And so I think he's also given like an autobiographical sketch of what's coming for him because he will be buried.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
pretty intense when you think about that this mustard seed is a symbol really of what God is going to do through Jesus' own death and
Interesting.
resurrection.
Yeah.
Because when he's explaining to his disciples that he is going to die, he says, it's kind of like when a grain of wheat falls to the ground. And he uses a different seed, but it's the same principle. He says it has to be buried.
Yep.
And then there in the dark, when we let go, we have to let it grow. We have to let God do what God's going to do. That's the second thing.
Yep.
So Kingdom of Heaven's like a mustard seed that was planted, and then it grew. And you can't see what's happening. All we can do is tend to it, and watch my papa do this with hundreds of acres of crops. Most of the time, if he did the right things, then it would yield a harvest. But you never really know. Sometimes they would have different diseases that would come and infect certain fields, and those kind of troubles could come, or there'd be a drought. But all we can do is all we can do. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lack of. It's just a recognition of we have to put this stuff in God's hands and let him do what he wants to do. So that's to let it grow. Give God some time.
Yeah.
And that's my struggle because I like to be impatient. And when I'm not, I'm insecure. Yeah. So we need that patient confidence.
Yeah.
And then last is to let God, and that really is just short for let God control the outcome. Mm-hmm. Let God deliver the results.
Yeah.
Because the results that God delivers are major. Mm-hmm. And Jesus is speaking about this seed and this tree that grows and then birds coming and finding rest in its branches. Yeah. Jesus is speaking about his own life because he will die. And then something unseen happens while he's literally under the ground. Yeah. And then something stirs that nobody could see and they come up upon it and they're like, wow, the stone's been rolled away. He's been let loose. He's out because now the kingdom is at hand. He's resurrected, and he is a foreshadowing of what's coming. That every person in this world, and we're starting to see the evidence of it now, from every tribe, tongue, and nation, every culture, every barrier that we have between us as human beings is broken down, and all of us are invited to find our shelter and shade and rest in Jesus' care.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
What a beautiful illustration that Jesus uses a 2-sentence story to illustrate this incredible.
Yeah, and I think he doubled down because, I'm not sure you even caught what I just said.
Right. Let me try one more time, another way.
Yeah, I've spent about 2 hours now talking about this parable. We studied it in my men's group too, so about 2.5 hours. Talking about 3 sentences that Jesus had, but they continue to ring true as we throw this down alongside the kingdom realities. Yeah. They go completely against our intuition, except they don't. There's something deep inside of us that we know. Yeah. That when we plant a seed, we need to let it go and let it grow, and then we need to let God control the outcome. We can't determine the size of it, or all those things that we've tried to do to control. We can't.
The couple of things we talked about, the 3: let go, let grow, let God. I want to talk about a couple elements, and it's really the transition from each one to another. Okay. So there's I call it the tightrope. We know that visual, right? Like the circus, someone walking the tightrope. You fall. If you go too far one way, you're going to drop off the rope, and there's a net that catches you, luckily.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a little bit of a tightrope we have to navigate between let go and let grow. And here's what I mean.
Yep.
Letting go does require, once again, the seed goes from the farmer's hand, a.k.a. our hand, into the ground. In this case, it would be God.
Yep.
Right. We give that up. We let go. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean, and let grow, that doesn't mean that we abdicate all responsibility and we just sit around in our living rooms for 168 hours a week.
Right. No.
And just see what happens.
Right.
There's a tightrope. There's a balance here.
Yeah.
Of yes, we have to let go. We have to stop being the one to try to manipulate, stop being the one to try to force. Yeah. But we also have to, a good word would be, I guess, cooperate.
Yes.
With the work that God is doing that is unseen. If you could speak more into that, because I do think there's a balance here.
I agree.
We can easily. I've been guilty of it where I will let go, and on the surface I'm doing good letting it go, but really what I'm doing is I'm just avoiding.
Yeah.
I'm just putting my
Putting
head in
it
the
off.
sand.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
putting it off. I'm trying to stay away from it, and I'm not actually.
Right.
Yes, I've let go, but it's really more out of avoidance. It's more out of.
Right.
I'm just
So
not
there's
dealing
a
with this thing.
purposeful participation in both of these characters that Jesus lifts up. This unnamed farmer and this unnamed baker, this woman cooking. And they are actively participating.
Yep.
So they're cooperating. I think here's the difference. They cooperate around the conditions.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
They cooperate around the conditions. That's all they can do is set the table. Jesus has to serve the meal.
Yep.
They can plant the seed. We can plant the seed. But Jesus is the one that has to make it grow.
Yeah.
And he can. And he's designed things for growth. But the thing we have to let go of is control. Now, here's the news. I hate to break hearts here, but none of us even
We
have
weren't even
control.
in it
We
in the
don't
first
have it
place.
right now
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So when I say, you know what, God, I'm going to give you this troubled relationship. Well, God's, I'm sure, like, well, good, because you can't really do anything about it if you keep relying on yourself. You're the one that got yourself into this mess.
Yeah.
And so your wisdom alone is not going to get you out
Right.
because it keeps messing with you. So
Yeah.
if it's a problem, we have to let it go. But also, if it's a possibility, we have to let it go. Some of us have dreams. You have dreams. I have dreams for your children. You have dreams for my son. We pray for things. We want the best for folks. And yet, at some point, we do have to entrust them to God. And that's a journey you're on now. I remember sitting watching you as I was on the platform at our Small Wonders graduation, and you're sitting there as a proud dad just crying away.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's a process of letting go each and every step of that. And those are with good things. Those are with our dreams, our hopes, our
absolutely.
greatest desire for our greatest love and greatest
Absolutely.
relationships. And those also have to be planted and entrusted to God. And God makes them grow. And so it can be something that we need to kind of escape from and run to, or it could be something that we've desired in our life. So it can go both ways. We can be praying for more peace in our life. Maybe we need that, but we also need to stay away from stressful inputs for us.
Right.
Doom scrolling and
Right.
texting with negative people all day that just are trying to drag you down or something.
Yes.
So
yes.
both of those things are things we have to give up. The illusion of control.
Yeah. And I love the visual. It's our responsibility to tend to the environment, much
Yeah.
like a baker does with the
Yeah.
oven,
Yeah.
or much like the farmer does with the seed in the ground and watering and
It's
sunlight and all
implied that they both are hands on and are
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And are nearby. She didn't just put it in the oven and leave.
Yes.
I mean, there's a fruit that comes from all of this,
Yes.
and she has to be cooperative.
Yes.
And cooperate with the leaven that's in the bread,
Exactly.
and the farmer has to cooperate with the way seeds work.
Exactly.
But it's kind of who's in the driver's seat. It's a subtle change. It is a tightrope. I like the way you're saying that.
And I think another tightrope, maybe a little different than the first one, is going from let grow to let God.
Yeah.
For me, when I think about this struggle, I think it's, how often do we have these moments where genuine, beautiful moments of surrender to God. Lord, I need you in this thing. I need you in this relationship. I need you in this place. Would you help me? Would you make it work out? Would you give me the guidance? Would you give me the resources? And then how guilty are you? I know I am of God works it out. And all of a sudden, I'm acting like I did it. I figured it out. Oh my gosh, Taylor!
Wow.
Taylor!
Ooh,
Oh
that
my
was a
gosh,
tough
Taylor!
one.
You got that one. You got that one. And for me, when I think about that line of let grow and let God, of it's a reminder of who ultimately is in control, but also continuing to look to and trust in them.
Yes.
Even after the result we get is a great amount of bread, or it's a great tree that's grown, or it's this relationship that got reconciled, or it's this addiction that we found kind of some freedom in, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think it's this piece of, there's a tightrope there of we're trusting God in the process. We're in kind of those foxhole prayer moments of Lord, get me out of it, help me with it. But we can't also forget that we got to let God do what He does after that too.
Yeah.
We can't just go back to, oh sweet,
And I think
I did it. I figured it out.
That grow stage can involve returning to letting go.
Yeah.
And involve letting God.
Yes.
These are all
Yes.
kind of mixed in together. We're talking about germination. We're talking about the human soul. We're talking about things that are not as linear as we might like to think. So it might be a relationship that you need to hang in there with for a long period of time and trust that God is going to work if you just continue to follow Him. Or it may take a while to be realized, and then I don't think we can recognize it until it happens, and then it's that moment. I remember when my son drove away. He was 18, drove away to college. I remember just sitting there sobbing, and I was like, "Whoo! I did it." Not God, you did it. You bailed me out. All those foxhole prayers.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's a great
man,
example,
I raised another child.
Look what I
raised a
did.
human, this living being has become
Yeah.
a man. Amazing. And yet I don't really have that much in it. So the
Right.
small things actually make the big difference.
Yeah.
So looking back, what I'm grateful for is the small decisions. Like there was not one big heroic moment of
Right.
triumph and faith in our family or something like it. What it was we started praying at our dinner times.
Yep.
We would pray at bedtime.
Yep.
We would try to talk out difficult things with each other with authenticity. And those are not big. They're not going to make any headlines. It's not very exciting to read about. But when we live those things faithfully and let God do what He's going to do, then the outcomes will be better than we could even ask or imagine. Yeah. And we're talking about good things. And again, this speaks to the character of the kingdom, but also the character of the king, because he's talking about the result is going to be this place of refuge for all people around the world. Come find shelter. And then the other is fresh bread. Like occasionally we've had people bring us fresh homemade bread.
It's the best day ever.
I remember the latest one. Yeah, we had, and she brought these loaves of bread that she just finished for us, and butter, and it was like 2:00 on a Tuesday afternoon, and we just dove in.
Eating bread.
We're just eating bread. Yeah, we didn't even have communion, but we were enjoying it. It was wonderful. So these are good things. These images that Jesus uses. And so he's inviting us into this kind of life that actually leads to life to the fullest, when we don't have to suffer under the weight of something that's not ours to carry.
Right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Any final words of encouragement for someone that maybe finds themselves in between any of these phases? Maybe they're still holding on to the seed and they need to let go. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have surrendered it, but there's, instead of tending to the conditions, they're wanting to just dig up the seed and take it back.
Well,
or someone who maybe is in the space of they're seeing growth, but man, they're having a conviction right now, even as we talked, or maybe even on Sunday during your sermon, of like, man, I've wandered away from the one who got me there.
Yeah.
And I've stopped going to him as much as I did back when I was in it and needing it.
Yeah.
What's some encouragement you would say for anyone that
first
any of
word
these
would be a
stages?
word of grace. Again, it's not about the amount of our faith or the amount of our faithfulness.
Yeah.
Strangely enough,
Yep.
So we can return and do this again. The disciples didn't get it until they got it, and Jesus he takes his time. And so I think the first thing would be just a word of you're loved. Yeah. Relax. You're loved. Okay, and God's going to work from there. But to trust Him means we do have to put it into His hands. We have to turn it over, and that involves a death. Yep. A death of ourselves, a death of control. And I think that's what Jesus was getting at. You want to be my disciple? Great. Simply deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And so these are these hard pieces for us as people, but it's the right way to go anyway, because it yields the most fruit or crops. And we don't have control anyway. So why do we have to live under that stress? I was a little kid. I remember coming home with a seed that we planted in like second grade or something.
Yeah, in the cup.
Cup. Yeah. And I set it in the windowsill, and I went back like an hour later, and I'm like, how come it's not grown yet? And I remember digging that up, looking for, and I ruined it. Because if you keep going back and digging it up, it's going to mess it up. It never gets a chance to take root. So we have to let go. And in that, there's an abiding, a trusting, a confidence that, and then we'll try to take it back, but then we have to let it go again. Yeah. And at the end, to know that we can let God do what God's going to do, because His kingdom is moving anyway.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of do we want to join it or not? Because the kingdom is going. It's like a mustard seed been planted. I mean, there's trees growing up all over this earth, whether we've been involved or not.
Right.
But it's fun to be a part of that whole thing and get in on this blessing.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of today. I hope you're able to dive a little deeper as we
Thanks
did
for
into this
toughing
sermon.
it out through this whole thing.
You can go on
this
ice
is your
now.
Injury game. That's right.
I'm putting up
Well
50
done.
like Jordan in the flu game.
That's right. MVP.
We're grateful for you all. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time.
God bless you.